Hi guys, my name is Amy and this is my first YouTube video. I've been collecting houseplants for several years and I really love watching other people's content on it, so I thought it would be fun to give it a go myself. I live in a flat in the UK with my wife and dog, so my focus is on mostly owning pet-safe houseplants. Not everything in my collection is, but the majority are. Yeah, today I wanted to film a tour of all of my houseplants. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hope you enjoy. Starting in our kitchen, we have a lot of plants by this southeast facing window. There is brick, but it stops sort of about there, so it does still get a lot of good sun that really bakes down on these in the afternoon. The first plant we have is one of my wife's plants. This was one she had before we met. It's a Ficus benjamina. A little bit finicky. It does sort of yellow its leaves quite regularly and drop a few, but it's definitely grown in the last few years. I'd be tempted to try and cut it back. You can see how bare some of these stems are and see if that encourages it to push out new growth. So that might be something I try on a part of the plant one day. Down there we've got some Hoya Matilde cuttings. They were in a prop box and I think they were just getting a bit dehydrated. They're very wrinkly, so I've put them in water to try and give them a boost. Here we've got a piece of Hoya polynura, some Tradescantia and Senecio, all popping in water. We've got a little fern there. I think this is a Blechem spicant, but I would have to double check that name. Some more little water props. We've got some Peperomia lilian, Ludicia discolor, more Tradescantia, another little Peperomia. In here, we've got a mixed pot of lipstick plants, all propping in water. And here we've got a nice big basil plant. This is the longest I've been able to keep a basil happy. And I've got some cuttings down there that I'll add into the pot once they've rooted. I'm trying to grow lettuce back, so that's a little experiment and see if that works. I've got a Piper sylvaticum, which is growing really nicely right up there. I reckon I need to get this on a moss pole. I think that would encourage it. And then back here, I think, where is it? Somewhere. There you go, let's put out a new little growth point, which is really cute. Really like that one. We've got a Sansevieria dwarf samurai. Hasn't done, I've had it for maybe 2 or 3 years and it hasn't done anything, but it's very cute, very sharp. So you'd have to be careful with that one. We've got a Hoya crinkle 8 there. And a Hoya carnosa crimson princess, and then a tiny little, either an aloe or a haworthia. I think it's a haworthia. That is a pup of a plant that I've had for, gosh, at least 10 years, and I ended up giving it to my sister, and then it got a bit of root rot, so she gave it to me to rehab, and then I kept this little piece. I've got a Nepenthes Gaia. Really lovely pictures, and it does seem to put them out quite easily. So if you're wanting to give these kind of plants a go, I'd recommend this one. Not sure why that's decided to try and grow in that one, but really pretty. Down here we've got a Ludicia discolor. Again, this is quite an old plant of mine, but it tends to die back quite drastically after it blooms. So it hasn't necessarily gotten any bigger. I think it's actually gotten smaller. And there is a Peperomia dolibriformis. Very cute. And a Peperomia incarna, which I will get out because it is so fuzzy, especially on those new little baby leaves. Really happy with this one. This is a wish list plant for ages, so I'm Really happy to have it. Oh no, don't want it to get stabbed. I'm going to put that back in a second. Next to that, I've got a very sharp Sansevieria Francescii. I think this is my favourite Sansevieria. I really like the way it grows, and it's definitely noticeably gotten bigger since I've got it, which is quite nice for a Sansevieria. The other ones I've got tend to be very slow growing. And then here, one of my favourites, I've got a Peperomia Leodensis, which again, really velvety, really cool, and quite unique in its growth for Peperomia. I got this as an unrooted cutting on eBay, and there wasn't too much I could find online about this plant in terms of propagating it, other than I'd seen it was maybe a little bit difficult. So how I did it, if you happen to have one of these unrooted, or you want to propagate it, or you want to get one, I put it in a jar of damp perlite, which I then put in a prop box for extra humidity, and that actually rooted really quickly. So, and it's definitely put out quite a few new leaves. The picture of the mother plant from eBay was like a proper tree, so I hope this one day grows really tall. Back here is another one of my wife's plants, this absolute beast of a cactus. Really long spines, so it stays in this corner where I'm not having to try and move past it very much, and it's also close to the sink, so I don't have to move it very far to water it. But it is very cool, and I think it's maybe grown a little bit in the last couple of years. Here I've got a begonia snowcap. Possibly anyway, if you know it's called something else, please let me know, because there's quite a few that look very similar. Really nice. And then under there, a little bit hard to see, but I've got some Marimo moss balls just chilling. I probably need to give them a little night in the fridge. They do like the cold water. So that is everything on this first windowsill. Over on this ledge, sort of still in our kitchen, it's quite a few feet away from the window, is a type of bromeliad that has really pretty markings. I quite like the better stem. I think it makes it look quite interesting, but it has got some pups growing at the bottom. I think there's 3 there, which is really sweet. I'm excited for them to grow bigger, and I have got another one to pot into here, which you'll see in a second. And then spinning around this way into our living room, we've got an excited pup. This is Piper. Hello, Mayim. What have you got? Are these your toys? Who's this? This cat is her favourite. I brought it back from Birmingham on the train. It used to have ears and everything, but it's gotten a bit, I think it used to have a tail. Very tattered now. This is your favourite? Yes! I think we'll have a little play and then we'll get back. Yeah, what do you think? We are back. Pubs is chilling on the sofa. I wouldn't say she's tired. She seems quite hyper today, but we'll see how far we can get into it. I've got a couple of side tables here with 2 plants. This first one is another Ludicea discolor, and it is absolutely gorgeous. There we go, we're chirping away. Pups! Piper, can you be quiet? Huh? A little Ludicea discolor with really pretty markings. Really love this one. And one of my favourite houseplants, a Sitomium falcatum. That's probably not the way to pronounce it, but for a very whimsical looking fern, sort of very feathery, it's actually quite chilled out compared to sort of Boston ferns. Some of the finer ones that are trickier to deal with. This one I found quite easy. This is its newest leaf. It's huge. And it is a fertile frond as well. You can see those light little spots at the back are spores, and they will get darker and fall off. So I have had to cut quite a few of the fronds because the spores were just going all over the place. But I think I will try, maybe when these ones get darker, see if I can grow them, have a little experiment with that. And then spinning around to our dining table. Literally as of 10 minutes ago, I did have a Sansevieria moonshine that I was selling, and a lady came to pick it up. I really like Sansevieria, but I think the moonshine was a bit, I don't think I was mad on the pattern of the leaves or the way it grew, so I ended up selling that one. But I've got this absolutely gorgeous Peperomia aquatica money tree here. Sorry, I'm just moving a chair so I can get a bit lower down. This was a wedding gift from my brother and his spouse, and it's so lovely. It came with the pot as well. They made the they had the pot made as well. Really, really cute, and has put out quite a bit of new growth when we've only had it for maybe a month. So happy with this. I was actually looking to get one of these because they're a sort of staple non-toxic plant that for some reason I just never had, and I'm so happy with it. Really, really pretty. And then spinning round, this is another southeast facing window, and I've got a IKEA unit and a windowsill with some plants on. The first one is this fern. I'm not sure what kind, and it is a bit ropey looking at the moment. I bought it with a couple of other ferns that I sold one, and another one did die. It was covered in pests, but this one, when I got it, had a lot of broken stems, which I was fine with because my plan was to cut them up and use them in wedding bouquets. So that's what's left, and it will eventually fill back out again. Over here is a very large Calathea macoiana with really, really stunning foliage. This one, for a Calathea, I'd say is pretty easy. All of my plants get tap water, and this one actually lives a few feet away from a dehumidifier, so you get like a little bit of yellowing and crisping, but it's not noticeable on the plant as a whole. But yeah, I've killed plenty of Calathea in my time, and this one is a relatively easy one. Down here is another one of my wife's plants. I got this for her not long after we met. It's a little aloe. Not sure what kind, but that's grown quite a lot. It was, I think, about the size of one of these pups when I got it, and it's since really filled out. Yeah, there's a little green spider plant, or a few. I think there's 4 different pups in there that I cut from this mother plant. Really, really sweet. I think these will go to a friend as a gift. There you go. And yeah, like I said, here's the mother plant. You can see it's growing at a pretty funny angle. I had this one years and years ago. I think this was the pup of one that I bought years ago, actually. And something about spider plants, I seem to find they always get thrips. Even I could have them for months or years, and even when I keep them sort of far away from other plants, because I've noticed this now, just they will suddenly get thrips. So this is one that was a pup from a spider plant that did get thrips. Grew this one out, it was fine, and then this one eventually did as well. So I ended up putting it outside and completely forgot about it. Found it over a year later with no leaves, but like, well, with 1 or 2 leaves that were growing upwards towards the sun because it was on its side. So I brought it in, and it immediately put out all of those. And it's grown lots of nice new leaves since then, and is putting out even more. So that's really exciting, and some flowers on this one too. So yeah, hopefully This one stays pest free. I do try and check them fairly frequently, as there seems to be a bit of a pattern. Down here, not plants, but still very cool. My wife and I love going to Lyme Regis in Dorset for the Jurassic Coast, where you can look for fossils. This one here has a little pyrite ammonite, so we've got quite a few of those. We've got an ichthyosaur vertebrae. I think I've got 3 of those. They're not as easy to find as the ammonites. And then in there is a big jar of belemnites, which are fossilised squid. Very cool. And we did go there for our honeymoon. So we've got a little jar of sort of fragments there. But back to plants. We've got these succulents and cacti on another southeast windowsill. This is a Hoya australis. This is my first Hoya. I had a huge one. I bought it 2020, I think, and it was the first Hoya I'd ever seen in garden centres local to me. And I was really excited. I thought I'd give it a go. And it grows really fast, so I had ended up putting it on a really, really tall trellis, and then it got root mealybug, and I thought the best way to deal with it was to chop it just before the roots, spray everything down and reroot it, which I did. And I was kind of all right with that, because my intention was always to want more of a hanging basket one versus a trellised one. But the windowsill I put it on ended up falling down, and I didn't have the space to house the plants that were on that windowsill, that window there, that curtain pole. So I ended up selling the majority of it, but kept this piece, and that's been putting out lots of new growth. Next to it is a Senecio stapelliformis. Oh, that is definitely not correct. It might be a Kleinia as well, instead, rather. Not sure. I will write the correct name. I've had this one for a long, long time. I think I need to unpot it though, because these have a habit of, instead of growing straight out of the soil, they just wrap round and round under the soil. So I might have a look at that soon. Here I've got a big pot of Crassula gollum, Crassula ovata gollum. There's a few different plants in here from various different trips. This one we got just after we got married, this big piece, and I think that little piece here we got on the same weekend that we got engaged, so it's really cute to have those potted together. And then these ones with the slightly bigger leaves, I think I found at a car boot sale. I've got a mixed pot of cacti there. I really like the this fuzzier one. I've got a starfish sansevieria, or a couple of different types. I've definitely underwatered these. You can see they're very, like, they look dehydrated, but I've checked the roots and they are okay. So hopefully that will bounce back. And then back here, one I'm a little bit concerned about. It's my oldest plant. I've had it for, I think, 10-ish years, and it's a euphorbia. It started off as just 2 little nubs, but I just noticed how dark the stems are looking, and they're quite flexible, which doesn't look good. I think I may have to chop off the healthy bits and try and reroot them. So if you have any tips for rerouting euphorbia, I would love to know, because I've propagated other succulents and cacti, but not euphorbia before. And just down from that windowsill, I've got this absolutely gorgeous Hoya polyneura that sits in between the southeast window there and then a northeast window and door here, so it gets pretty good light from those angles. And this one, I'm so proud of this one. It started off as a really dehydrated 2-leaf cutting I got on eBay in late 2020, and it did absolutely nothing except for maybe put out a couple of leaves for, God, at least a year, maybe longer actually. I don't think it's been actively growing for very long. And I ended up putting it in a jar to increase the humidity, and I noticed the roots grew, like it was already rooted, but the roots went crazy, and then it started to put out new growth points, and it has just not stopped since then. So if you've had trouble with one of these and you're able to put it somewhere where it'll get extra humidity, that might help boost it. And yeah, I've got lots of cuttings in the back as well to try and fill out the pot, but I'm just so happy with this one. And now that it has taken off, it is a very fast grower. And I forgot to say about the Hoya australis, that if you're looking for a Hoya that's fast growing from the get-go, that is a really good one. Other Hoyas I've noticed, they'll sort of take quite a while to settle in, but this, when I brought it home, was pushing out new growth, like, I think immediately. Down here, I've got a type of fern. I'm not sure exactly what kind. I see all of Piper's toys there. I love this one. It's definitely one of my favourites. The markings on the leaves are just really nice, and it's quite dark for a fern. The green is quite a deep green, but I don't know what it is. It grows similarly to the crocodile fern, but it's definitely different. So if you do know the name of this one, I would be really happy to know. Moving on to the northeast window and door, my dad put in this really handy shelf so that I could have more plants getting better light. And then down here I've got a box of smaller plants that I think just needed the humidity to sort of get them going. And then under that I've got a perlite prop box. So we'll start with the plant at the very top there. I will get it down so it's easier to see. So this is my Peperomia scandins. This is the all green one, and it is very fast growing. I'm really happy it started to trail now. And this one, so if I've noticed the all green one, I never see it in shops. I haven't seen it online very much. However, the variegated one I see fairly frequently. And I ended up buying that, got it home, and there was a couple of tiny growth parts, tiny pieces of growth that were all green, which I separated and started to grow, and soon realised I definitely preferred the all green scandins. So if you're in the same boat and you are able to find the variegated one but not the all green one, buy the variegated one, because if you take little leaf cuttings where you just chop here, not the stem but just the petiole of the leaf, and root that, it will grow through all green. However, if you chopped with the stem, you would then get variegated growth. So you can see I ended up chopping up all of my variegated one, and you can see that's one of the variegated leaves that is producing all green pups. There might be a better leaf to show you. Maybe not, it's quite hard to tell. But you can hopefully see that these, yeah, put out these really cute little green babies. So I'm really, really happy with that one. And on the second from top shelf there, I have a really, really lovely nepenthes goldfish plant. And it was easier to get down and show you again, but it's never bloomed for me, but I don't mind, because I love the foliage. I think it's so cute. I ordered a couple of small unrooted cuttings on eBay, and they have just taken off. So I'm really happy with that one. This is an absolute favourite. I will get that back on the shelf and we will move to these ones. Here we've got a Hoya Matilde, another favourite. I've got lots of favourites. Really, really happy with this one. I recently took a bunch of cuttings and took it off its trellis because I wanted a hanging Hoya Matilde, and I potted most of those back up to fill it out. But this one is a really fast growing Hoya, but not one that was fast from the start. Once it's settled in, it's just been pushing out new growth like crazy. You can see a little peduncle there as well. I think that's another one there. Very, very happy with this one. Behind that, I have a variegated Dracaena. Not sure of its name. I don't know if this is what's sold as Lucky Bamboo, but this plant I bought 3 of them in there, and I used them in my wedding bouquet. So I'm really happy that I get to keep a part of it for much longer. Really, really pretty. Don't know how I'm going to be able to show you this one. Might be easier if I get the Hoya down. There we go. This is another goldfish plant, a variegated one. So I've got greeny yellow inner variegation. Again, this is one I ordered a couple of cuttings on eBay, and they've been growing pretty quickly. Not as fast as the all green one, but that is sort of the standard for variegated plants. Really love this. I'd love to have loads more varieties of goldfish plant. I just think they're so cute. Get the Hoya back up. Very crowded shelves. Oh no, don't fall. The one below, I've got a couple more Hoya. I've got a Hoya Crimson Queen, which I would say is another Hoya that grows well the second you bring it home. It's put out loads of new growth, and I've taken cuttings, and bring that down, that might be easier. I've taken cuttings and it's started to put out all white leaves, which are very pretty, but they won't stay on there for very long, I don't think. There you go, you can see some cute new growth. So yeah, another great one if you want something that's gonna take off very quickly. And then here, very cool, I've got a Hoya rotundiflora that again I took off of its trellis and potted in some cuttings because I think I'm just not mad on trellised Hoya maybe. This one took a little while to acclimate, and it's currently putting out quite a lot of new growth. These 2 here are new. You can see some, a little bit hard to see, some tiny babies there, and then some even tinier babies there. Really lovely. This one will go through phases where, like now, it puts out quite a few new leaves and then it slows down again for a little while, but it's just so unique and I'm really happy with it. And on the bottom shelf, well, in front of it, I've got a Pilea peperomioides, which is another wedding gift. Again, it was one that I was actually looking to buy myself, so it's really lovely to have been gifted one that one of Chloe's friends, I think, must have separated from their own plant. And in the back, this is our wedding cake topper that we had made. I'll link the Etsy shop we got it from, because you can sort of custom the couple and pet to get the right combination. You can see there's a tiny little baby trying to pop out under there. And I think it's got 3 babies in the front already, so this has grown pretty quickly. I know you can rotate them so that the growth is more evenly spread out, but I quite like how it looks all facing one way. And behind here, bottom shelf, I've got a Peperomia rotundifolia that's starting to really trail nicely. I think when it gets much bigger, I'll hang it somewhere else. Really, really sweet little Peperomia. And then I've got another Peperomia. This is Peperomia polybotria. Really, really lovely. I love Peperomia. They are such a great plant if you're looking for variety, because, you know, to me, they don't look like they'd come from the same genus. Really, really quick, like sweet. Thirstier than I'd have thought. This one does seem to need watering quite a lot. And then back here, my last goldfish plant. It's another variegated one with slightly different variegation, but it's so, so pretty. Again, none of these have bloomed for me, but I just love them anyway. So this one I find a little bit harder. The propagations, they'll root fine. Well, some of them are more inclined to rot than I've noticed with the other goldfish plants, but once they do root, I'll pot them in and they don't seem to always take very well. So that one is slightly more tricky, but nonetheless, really, really sweet. So behind this box here, I will get those out, show you. I have this little shelf here that was the Plant Haven inspired purchase. I watched one of Claire's videos and she has these on her windows. So I've got this and I'm gonna hang it later today once the glue from the back has dried. I'll show you, it's just up there. I ended up sticking one in the wrong place, but luckily they come with two. But in here, I've got a Crassula muscosa, the variegated watch chain. You can see a really lovely patch of white there. Really, really sweet. That one is another one of Chloe's plants. This is a begonia Bowery Tiger. Really, really pretty, and I'll have to show you the backs of the leaves because they are just incredible. Absolutely stunning on the back, and the new growth comes in really sweet. Very cute. And the last one I have in here, these have just been potted up, are some curly lipstick plants. I've got some more in there. I had a massive hanging pot of this, and it got a bit bare along the top, and I thought, oh, maybe I could chop some off and use them in my bouquet. But when I was starting to put them together, they didn't really, it was a bit too dark foliage, I think, for the rest of everything I was using. So I didn't end up doing that. However, that lipstick plant was on the same curtain pole that fell down, so I thought the easiest thing to do would just be to chop it all up and re-root it and sort of start again. So those will be hung up on that door eventually. So next is the box of little baby plants. I've got a begonia amphioxus there, a begonia magic colours. I'm not sure if it has another name, but that's what it was sold as. Get the lid off, it's gotten stuck. There we go. I've got a very sad begonia maculata that I'm hoping will thrive in here and just get itself more established. It seems to put out 3 leaves and then they start crisping off. I may chop it and see if I can encourage more growth from here, but for now that's just in there. I've got a little Peperomia greyhound that had thrips when I got it, which I didn't notice, and lost all of its adult leaves, so I'm popping it in here to try and encourage sort of faster growth, have it bounce back. We've got some Peperomia propagations. That one's a little Polybotria, and that one, I think it might be a Rosso, but they're coming along quite well. I've got a, excuse me, Ceropegia string of spades just in there, which once it gets a bit longer I'll probably chop up to make a fuller plant. And then a teeny tiny baby monstera that was potted up with a bigger plant that we were gifted as well, and it sort of popped away from the mother plant and the root system wasn't big enough to, I think, survive on its own and with a larger pot that wouldn't get watered as much. So I've separated it and it is already putting out a new leaf. Really cute. I'm excited to have this one grow from scratch. I think that'll be really fun to watch. So that is everything in there, and I will now open up the propagation box and give you a quick overview of what's in there. So in the perlite prop box, we have got mostly the curly lipstick plant cuttings. A lot of them are starting to root, but then they're not very long. They're quite hard to propagate, those ones. Other lipstick plants have rooted fine in water, but those ones just don't seem to want to. So if you've had the same trouble, they do root in perlite, it just takes a little while. Here I've got some of the begonia magic colours, and you can see down there some Peperomia rotundifolia leaves. They will root and produce babies from just leaf cuttings, which is really cool. Some kind of epiphyllum, I think. Small lipstick plant, and that is a little piece of Hoya australis lisa. More Peperomia rotundifolia. I've got some Peperomia lilian. You'll see the mother plant in a second. Those were some leaves that were on broken stems, so I thought I'd try and root those. Got some Peperomia polypotria. Another little piece of scandins, I think. Little Peperomia Napoli Nights, I think. Some variegated goldfish plant and some Ludicea discolor. I definitely overwatered my plant because a lot of it started rotting and falling out, so I've chopped all the yucky bits off and popped them in here. There we go, that's I think everything in there. Oh no, we've got some string of turtles. And there we go. So above this door I've got a curtain pole with 4 plants hanging, and I'll get those down one by one to show you. That'll be a little bit easier to see. The first plant I have hanging up there is a nepenthes Bloody Mary that puts out these incredible deep red pictures. It's got a few little ones on the way there. Nepenthes, I find they like quite bright light, but if they start to go red, that's a little bit too much light on the leaves, and they don't like to dry out, so that's what I do try my best to keep on top of these. But when I have forgotten and they've really dried out, they have bounced back. You might just lose some pictures, and you have to use specific substrate for them. They can't just go in regular potting mix. You need either carnivorous plant soil or perlite or sphagnum moss. They can't have soil with nutritions in it, basically. I'm explaining this poorly. They produce their food by catching things in their pitchers, so they don't want anything in their soil to feed them with. That was a poor way of explaining it, but yeah, I enjoy growing these. I think they're really interesting. Next plant up there is a Peperomia Hope, which is doing really, really well at the moment. The top has suddenly really filled out and it's gotten really dense up there. The new growth is so cute. And yeah, this was doing nothing for a long time. I was starting to get a bit disheartened, but this summer it's really, really puffed out. I've had this one for a few years as well, and yeah, something is making it very happy at the moment. So can't wait for all of that to start trailing down. Really, really sweet. The next plant up there is a scandins longicalis, or marmoratus. I've seen it go by both names. I don't know if they are 2 different plants. It's the black pagoda lipstick plant that has the most incredible leaves. Really, really lovely pattern. This one again is one that's sort of taken off this summer and has at least doubled in size. So really, really happy with that one. Excited for, again, more of it to start trailing down. You see, we've got a snoozy pup. And the last plant hanging up there is a couple of different lipstick plants in one pot. The first one I've got is this variegated lipstick plant. A lot of it is all green and its sun stress is quite purple, but these sort of longer leaves are the variegated one. And then in the back, you can see a little bloom there as well. In the back is some Mona Lisa scandins with these rounder leaves. There was a bit of a rehab plant that I think I will separate into its own pot soon, because that's starting to bounce back a bit more. Very cute. I do really enjoy lipstick plants. You can see there you go, a better view of the variegated one. Really lovely. So below those hanging plants, I've got this massive pot of nepenthes. Absolutely enormous. If I unravelled them from this trellis, it would easily reach our ceiling. The main big plant in here is a nepenthes alata, and that puts out these sort of orangey, yellowy pictures. And then this piece here, the darker foliage, is a nepenthes sanguinea that puts out dark purple pictures. It hasn't got any at the moment. And there is another nepenthes in here that I can't differentiate to show you because I don't think it's got any pictures at the moment. I'll spin it around. There might be some the other side. This is great, by the way. I think I got that in Home Bargains. Makes moving this thing a lot easier. No, these are all the alata pictures. But there is another one in here that has similar ones. That looks very similarly to the Gaia, but I don't think it is. I think it is different. So that is the mega nepenthes. The last plants we have in our kitchen living room are 3 very recent plant purchases. I got these a couple of days ago from a garden centre, and they were really heavily reduced, so sort of couldn't say no. Here I've got a bromeliad. It's the same as the one up there, so I'm going to pot them together. I've just kept them on our coffee table to keep them away from all of my other plants until sort of confirmed they haven't got any pests. Hello, sweetie. Hiya. Hi, baby. Yeah, the bromeliad was £4 reduced down to 50p, so sort of no question. Behind that is another one of those variegated dracaenas. Again, this was, I think, £3 down to 50p. So I will pot that in with the other ones I have. And the only thing wrong with this one was just this leaf was a bit crispy. So yeah, and this one, again, it just had a few crispy tips that I've chopped back. Otherwise, it's completely fine. And the last one is a Peperomia lilian, which I'm really happy to have. I've wanted one for quite some time, but they seem to only sell these ones in pots about this big, and the only other ripple peperomia I'd had, I didn't do so well with. They got thrips, and it just, I think because of how textured the leaves are and how densely packed, it was just really hard to deal with the thrip problem. But that was quite early on in my plant journey, so I know a bit more now and I'm more on top of pest checking. But this was £9 down to £2, so I thought it was the perfect time to give these a go again. And I love the shade of green and how rippled the leaves are. The blooms are really, really interesting. Yeah, this one looks fine. There's one patch I'm a little bit concerned with. I did put some cinnamon on it because it was looking a bit rotty, so I will keep an eye on it. But it's pushing out new growth everywhere, and I've got some leaves that were on broken stems I'm propagating, so really happy with all 3 of those. And yeah, that is the last of the plants in here. Shall we go to the spare room? Shall we go spare room? See some more plants? So we're now in our spare room slash office, and I've got a couple of plants here that are gifts for a friend. I've got a monstera here, pretty decent size, and it's got a little fenestration, and then a few basil cuttings that I thought made quite a sweet new home gift. Spinning round to another northeast windowsill. This is where there was a curtain pole that fell down, and the only damage, luckily, was that leaf there. The first plant on this windowsill is a little sedum mackinoi that I think is just so cute. I've put it sort of this side in the corner of the windowsill because it doesn't seem to like getting a lot of light, but I just think it's adorable. We've got a Hoya carnosa here, classic. Another one of Chloe's plants, which I've just noticed is blooming. That's cool. This is a gaster aloe, so a aloe and a gasteria hybrid. Very, very cool. She'll be excited to hear that it's blooming, and it's got lots of babies all around it as well. And I really love the spotty leaves. A mixed pot of Sansevieria here. These little ones are all cuttings that I've propagated, and then this yellow variegated one, is it the Laurentii? I'm not sure. This one, it was an Aldi and it wasn't even in the pot. It had like no root system, so I bought it and me and my mum shared it. There was another plant to it, and that's now doing quite well. It's got some new growth in the middle there. A couple of jungle cacti, the brickrat cactus, is that Epiphyllum angula something. I do struggle with the tropical cacti a little bit. We'll see how these go. I've then got a succulent pot. I've got two types of echeveria here and some little elephant bush. Then we've got a Sansevieria star canary. Hasn't done anything since I got it. Its yellow has faded, which is a shame, but I'm not sure. This may be one I end up selling, but it has got a cute little stowaway in there. And I think this is the last of Chloe's plants. This is it's either a Haworthia or an aloe. I think it's a Haworthia because of these very raised bumps, but that's a very funky one. And then a Peperomia prostrata, the string of turtles, that is doing pretty well. This was in the other room on the shelf by the window, and I think I got it caught in my hair when I was bending down to do something. The whole thing fell out and I had to basically cut it up and start again, but it's doing quite well and it's putting out a little inflorescence just there. Very, very cute. And the last two in here, I've got a Philodendron glorious that was a thank you gift. That is putting out a new, it's going to be quite hard to see, it's hard to reach, putting out a new leaf just there. This one's only just sort of hardened off. This is another one that I think I really ought to get on a moss pole. I've just never used them before. And then next to it I've got a monstera, which was the last of the wedding gift plants. Really, really cool. That leaf there, really perfect. But yeah, that is everything we have in our spare room. So in our bedroom we only have the one plant. We have a Sansevieria metallica that sits between a west and a southwest window. This one, I do really enjoy it. It's I don't know that I'm mad on the way it grows, how sort of splayed out it gets, but the leaf pattern is really pretty. I think I was hoping it would grow similarly to the Bantel Sensation, but it's a lot more wide. It's usually spun the other way, but otherwise these bits here would end up in our fan, so it looks a bit extra awkward at the moment. But yeah, that is the only plant we have in here. These windows, because they come directly to the wall, I can't really hang plants because they end up hitting the window, so it would be nice to have more in here. I could maybe put a shelf up there or here. We'll see, maybe one day. So we're now in our bathroom, and all of these plants sit near a south or southwest facing window, but the glass is coloured, so it's quite low light that comes in here. I think the easiest thing to do would be to get these plants on the floor so there's a bit more space to show you them. First up we have the Calathea mosaica, or Calathea network. Another pretty relaxed Calathea, not much browning or crisping. These yellowing leaves are the oldest ones, so I'm not worried about that. And again, these all get tap water, and the leaves can grow absolutely massive. But this is a really, really lovely one. Again, yeah, chilled out for a Calathea. Next up is a Calathea fasciata. This is the one that's similar to the Orbifolia, just a lot darker foliage. More of a finicky one. You can see some browning and crisping and a bit slower growing, but I really like the leaves, and I prefer this one to the Orbifolia, which I have had and have killed. Next up we've got a Calathea rufibaba in this pot that is a wall hanging. You can kind of tell from the bottom that I painted at a ceramics place, and this one was a stowaway in a Stramanthe that I got that I've also killed. But this one is thriving, and yeah, it only had a couple of leaves when I got the other plant. So maybe I'd say this one is fairly chilled as well. A not so chilled Calathea, the Calathea ornata. I've had this one for years and it goes through phases. It's starting to put out new growth, and it's got a couple of new leaves. I think that's a new one, where it all dies back and then it starts to grow again, but it means it's never gotten any bigger. It just sort of stays the same size. It is incredibly pretty, but maybe not my favourite. We've got a crocodile fern. Really, really cool. Easy for a fern, I'd say, and just incredible leaf texture. It was pretty small when I got it, so it's definitely grown quite a bit. Oh, I don't want to break anything. And the last plant of this tour, a mixed pot of Fittonia. I think Chloe got me most of these on various different garden centre trips. I've got one of the really highly sort of veined ones, some of the darker green, the pink on green, and the mostly pink in there. Very sweet, and a good low light plant option. So yeah, that is the end of the plant tour. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I had a great time filming it. I love getting to talk about my houseplants, and it's really great that there is this community of people with this interest and this hobby. I have lots of ideas for other videos I'd like to film, but if there's any that you have as well, I'd love to hear. And yeah, I see you next time. Bye.